Alrighty, what do we got here? We got addressing unranked GM drama. Oh shit. What is going on in ODubs 1.1?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in and break down one of the more controversial topics. I'm not even going to say in Overwatch, right? Like, just kind of in gaming in general. And that's the idea of not just smurfing, but more particularly like unranked GMs. You know, I saw...
Ooh, hitting it hard right off the bat. Okay. So, if you don't know what smurfing is, and you've been living under a rock, smurfing is the act of a really good player not playing on their main account. They are playing on a separate account that has very little to no playtime, or they just start a new account over and over again, making a bunch of different ones. And then that really good player going onto that game's ranked ladder and proceed to go through the ranks all the way till like one of the top ranks of whatever game. I think this is a thing in League of Legends. This is a thing in Apex. This is a thing in Overwatch. I don't know if COD has it. I don't know if Fortnite has it. And I'm pretty sure Rocket League has this issue too. And I would say it's even more prevalent in Rocket League, because in Rocket League it's very obvious when a player is really good. But anyway, let's see what Samito has to say about this.
Saw a video from GS Raider kind of talking about awkwards unranked GMs, right? And bringing up his issues where they kind of just come out and said outright. He was like, look, there's nothing else to talk about in the game. A point I'll bring up later. And I just kind of want to talk about this. And he goes on to list a lot of issues, and he gives credit where credit's due, of course. Like in Awkward's, like he's a good player, he's a rank 1 player. He's actually my former teammate. My first contenders run Awkward was our flex support player back in 2019. Man, that was a long time ago. Good times, right? Yeah, so, you know, it's an interesting subject. I kind of didn't want to get too involved with like that personal, not drama, I guess, or just...
But we about to.
Argument between those two people. But I want to talk more so about the issue of unranked GMs, quote unquote, as a whole, and give my perspective on it as someone who's kind of been known to do a lot of them over the years, and kind of explain to you guys, you know, why creators do them, something that people don't really talk about a whole lot. So yeah, let's break down the ideas of unranked GM, what's okay and what's not, in my opinion. I just want to give some elaboration, some thought on all of these.
So this is another interesting little tidbit. He said creators. So in competitive FPS, you can be a competitor or you can be a creator, and sometimes you can be both of them. All right, you can be a competitor and a creator. So if you're just a really good creator, this is more prevalent here. However, if you're just a competitor, or well, I'd say just, but I don't really mean just. I mean, if you are a really good competitive player, then you really don't have time to do Smurf matches unranked to GM. You're busy scrimming, you're busy doing VOD reviews, you're busy playing the game, you're busy maybe, I don't know, it's Overwatch, maybe you're aim training, but more likely you're not. But anyway, yeah, there's a ton of other things that you could be doing besides some unranked to GM thing on a alt account number 69, okay? There's a bunch of other things. So just a little aside there.
These things. So in my past, I've done quite a few unranked GMs, right? I try to do them like every other season maybe, or really whenever a new character comes out, right? I've got a ton of accounts I've done a lot on. However, what I draw the line on, where I thought things were a lot more fair and in a gray area, were, you know, in bronze to GMs, right? I don't...
Also, this whole unranked to GM thing, he just said he's got a bunch of accounts. I don't know what a bunch means. Let's just say it's like somewhere between 5 and 10, maybe more. So I would probably put, like, I only have like a couple hours in Overwatch. I played it a little bit, and I only have my one account, okay? I'm like okay at the game, but It's like whatever for me. So as a casual player, and I would say probably up until the 80th to 90th percentile of skill in the game of players, most of those players only have the one account. So this is a niche of a niche issue, smurfing. And, take this into account with all other games too. League of Legends, Apex, Overwatch, and any other game that has a rank ladder. This is an issue that the tippy top people are engage in that the lower ranks have an issue with.
Don't do bronze to GMs. I don't find them to be educational whatsoever. There's nothing you can really teach an audience about playing in bronze, right? It's kind of just, it's just a place. It's just Overwatch purgatory, right?
So I actually have no idea the difference between unranked to GM versus bronze to GM. I would guess if it's bronze to GM, or I'll say this, if it's unranked to GM, I think you can like hedge your skill into like the what is it called? The placement matches. You win enough placement matches, it'll set you up higher into like, I don't know, silver, gold, or plat, or whatever, somewhere in there. So you bypass the like legitimate noob, like newbie type, I don't know, gap of Overwatch, and then all you got to do is go from like plat, diamond, and then whatever other ranks Overwatch has up until that point. I think he's probably referencing if some people, or the real degeneracy of people that do bronze to GM, which if you're in bronze, I would say most of the player base in Overwatch or in any game, this is just an average distribution of skill in any FPS. Most people are in bronze, silver, gold, the first 3 tiers of a rank ladder. So this is, I mean, he says purgatory, but this is in any game really where most of the player base is at. I would say after, I don't know, after gold, or what is it, platinum or diamond? I don't know. Once you reach that, once you get past gold, then you start having players that are at least a little bit competent on your team. But yeah, I would say doing the bronze to GM is a little more egregious than unranked to GM, because you can, if you win enough placement matches, you just skip a bunch of tiers. So yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons why people end up in bronze, and that's totally fine if that's where you enjoy playing. Nothing, no sweat there. It's just, as someone who's hit rank 1 on multiple roles, right? I don't. There's just, it's just not worth it. It's just not fun. Like it's not remotely engaging content, and this is kind of what GS Raider touches on in his video, where he kind of says, it's not engaging content for you to go around in bronze and just out mechanic everybody, right? You're not really teaching anybody anything. It's not. And I can tell you, it's definitely not fun. As a creator, personally, I don't enjoy that. I don't find that to even really be a video game, like even remotely comparable to what I enjoy playing, whether it be Overwatch, Warzone, anything like that. I don't want to be in bronze MMR. I just don't. It's just not fun. Apex Legends, you name it. It's just not fun unless I'm a new player. So I've always refrained from doing those. Okay,
so he's refrained from doing bronze to GM, but he's not averse to doing unranked to GM.
Just do unranked GMs on a new account, and it kind of tells a story, right? It's one of the few pieces of Overwatch content that in a way has like a built-in story to it.
However, I would say if, let's just throw something into like left field. Let's just say you're like a high-ranking player and you do unranked GM and you do your placement matches, but somehow, through whatever reason, there's probably going to be some percentage of those players that got unlucky. Maybe they got placed in silver, maybe they got placed in gold, and then they have to chew through that little bit of the player base to get to where they want to go, which is GM. So, maybe the intention could be to just skip that chunk of players, but maybe sometimes it just ends up, it's a roll of the dice with your teammates. Your teammates could be that bad, or maybe you just had an off day or whatever the heck. Then what? I mean, obviously intention matters, but I don't know. It's just up to you whether like how stupid or egregious doing these like Smurf runs are.
To it where you are actually showcasing your journey from where the average player starts up to the skill ceiling, and that's something that like is very instrumental in hooking people onto games. It's the dream of starting at the skill floor and continuously improving until you get to the skill ceiling. Another thing that Raider.
Okay, so I would say, so I haven't watched any of the video that he's referencing, so I just have no idea, but I would say that smurfing is a thing that exists in the later years of a video game or or any video game that has a ranked ladder that has been around for a while. The game's been around for a while. People have developed a skill. They're bored or they're frustrated or whatever the reason is. They don't feel like playing the ladder of their game at the tippy top anymore. So they make a new account and then they true through players all the way back up just to prove that, like, hey, I can still do this. Great. This isn't so much of an issue when a new game drops. So there's a couple of FPSs coming out. I'm going to use like the horrible examples of Modern Warfare 3. That's a new game, okay? And I think X Defiant is coming out. I don't know if they're going to have a ladder or something, but nobody is going to be really pissed at like good players for smurfing in those games, because when a new game drops, everybody is about at the same skill level, or at least perceived skill level, because it's a new game. There's new skills, new mechanics, new movement, new aim to master, okay? And then everybody progresses differently, and then the skill distribution, levels out to your standard, standard bell curve of skill players. And so nobody has an issue when a new game drops about smurfing. Okay, the issue comes into play when the game's been out for a while. Okay, so the longer a game is out, the less the less and less players, or the more players will just stop playing. That happens with every video game, and it's just a thing that happens. The longer a game is out, the concurrent player base, day by day, month by month, year by year, the concurrent player base goes down. Okay. When the game first drops, it could be like 1 million concurrents. And then maybe a month later, it'll drop by like 50%. Only at 500,000. Okay, a couple more months go on. 300K concurrents. A couple more months go on. 200K, 100K, 50K. All right, and then there's just less and less players just playing the game. The most skillful players will just literally just stick around. Okay? So it's not really an issue of the smurfing doesn't really affect. Well, I can't say that. It's when a smurf jumps from like a high rank back down to a low rank, when the concurrent player base is really low, it feels really shitty because you're waiting longer in queues, or in general, the players, when they queue for a ladder, they wait X amount of time for a queue pops, and then hopefully they get some people of similar skill. But when there's less people playing and you smurf and the smurf is on the other team, it's like, well, what the fuck? I just was waiting here for like 5-10 minutes or whatever for an equal match, and then all of a sudden there's a smurf that pops up on the other team. What the shit? The concurrent player base for my game's only like 10K. This is ridiculous. All right? It feels shitty when the concurrent player base of your game is just small in general. And for Overwatch, at least off of the Steam numbers, what is there, like 5K people playing Overwatch off of Steam? I don't know the Blizzard launcher Steam numbers, but if I were to just say 5K are playing off of Steam, then I don't know, 5 or 10K are playing off the Blizzard launcher. Was that like 15K? Yeah, and supposedly, I mean, I don't know if that's worldwide or just in the US. You only got 15K players playing. It's like, you're probably going to see a couple similar names. Okay? You just are. But okay, I've been going off. Let's just keep going. It's 3 minutes in, and I'm just bullshitting for like ever.
Kind of touches on in his video where he says it's a bad thing that players would see, awkward DPSing on support and saying damage, damage, damage. This is just awkward thing. He always talks damage, right? That's just how awkward it is, right? And just going around curb stomping players. And this kind of brings me into my next point, which is, are all unranked GMs the same? And the answer is definitely no.
Okay. To me, as a casual, I think they're all the same. Because what's the difference? I mean, he's about to tell us, but I'm a freaking casual in almost every game, okay? If you tell me there's a really good player making a new account and going into the unranked GM, and let's say that's the best case scenario, the least egregious, then versus someone that's really high versus going into like a bronze to GM, it's like they're functionally the same thing. Yes, one is skipping a large chunk of players and just trying to get into like the upper echelon of players, like the upper 33rd percentile or 66th percentile, and just going from there versus, starting from bronze and going through 100% of the player base. But functionally, they're still the same thing. But let's see what he has to say.
It really depends on the creator you're watching. Like for me, I throw some rage moments in there and really try to be as educational as possible and really, really break down the flow of the game, what I'm thinking, why I'm thinking it, and what I'm actually doing, right?
Okay.
That's kind of what I've been known for
So
as
for
a player,
education.
which is why, I'm able to hit rank 1 combined in most of the seasons where I'm grinding is because, I have an in-depth game understanding that I want to try to share with you guys, right? And really explain my thought processes in better ways so that your average player at home can learn something or actually take something home to apply to their game. Not every streamer who does an unranked GM is going to bring that level of dialogue or has the intent to bring that level of dialogue to the series. So they're not all...
Okay. So as long as they're doing unranked to GM and they're trying to add some sort of educational value to it, Samito thinks it's all right. Okay.
All the same. That's kind of the reality of it. It really depends on who you're watching. I think Yeedle is another great example of somebody who does a lot of educational unranked GMs who actually, is educational, explains his thought process, and does a good job with that. But not everyone does that, right? So
True.
I understand why a lot of people would have an issue with somebody who does a Widowmaker unranked GM who's just sitting in the back of the map, and ultimately it's just like, well, are you hitting your shots or not? Well, I mean, you could be zoning people out and ruining the lobby, sure, but that, like a hero like that is probably not as engaging educationally for somebody to learn. So there's not a whole lot to learn there. Are you hitting your shots or are you not? Are you taking the right angles or are you not? Blah, 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 blah. What are you actually doing, right? And that's kind of, it's a different series than doing one for Brigitte, for example. So yeah, that's one point. It's not all unranked GMs are the same, especially if they're doing a bronze GM, which is just totally different, and there's just nothing to learn there. Or if you're intentionally hindering yourself, that's not really an authentic experience, right? And I don't think that's even, you couldn't really argue that it's a healthy thing for the game. So yeah, moving on past that, not all unranked GMs are the same. Now let's talk about the most obvious point for me as a creator that...
Dang. And here I thought there was just two differences. There was... Okay, so here's my initial thought process on how it all went. There was just the concept of smurfing, okay? Good player makes a new account, goes from the beginning all the way up. So now he broke it down again into bronze to GM. All right, there's one level. Now the next level is unranked to GM. And within the unranked to GM, there's either educational or entertaining. So there's another division of smurfing. This just sounds, and I mean no offense, this just sounds like you're trying to justify smurfing to me. All right, this happens a lot with Apex for certain people. There's one guy in particular. But anytime people smurf in a game, I'm just disinterested in it. I mean, it's no offense. I mean, if they're doing the education thing, great. You do you, man. There's nothing wrong with it. Uh, but okay, I was gonna go off and say something again, but let me just keep here. Let me just keep listening.
Frankly, doesn't get talked about a lot, right? And this is just the cold hard truth as to why people do these things. The bottom line is, guys, they just get great viewership. They just do. It's what people want to see. And as content creators, if people weren't watching Unranked GMs and really taking in the content for years since the beginning of Overwatch, I remember seeing the first one I ever saw was IDDQD, who was in plat, and some channel uploaded, he's like, 92 eliminations, Hanzo God, IDDQD, right? And I was like,
okay, so multiple things crossing my mind right now. So the same thing happens in the Call of Duty community, or at least in Warzone, where people just try to kill race. You know, they drop in with their their 4-man team or whatever. They all take different corners of the map, and they just, you know, try to, you know, I don't think there's any like ranked thing in Warzone or whatever. It's just 4 legitimate players playing the game and just trying to break the world record in kills. Okay, so this happens also in Warzone, but since there's no rank lobby, you can't officially call it smurfing. Okay, and also, if you would also have to take into consideration what the developers think about smurfing. If they have no issue with smurfing, and the developers think it's fine, and they don't ban people for smurfing, then it's okay. The developers are going to let ride whatever they want to let it ride. Okay? So if you don't like smurfing, but the developers of your favorite game allow smurfing, and you don't like it, well then don't play. It's as simple as that. That's all you can expect. Now, if your favorite developer doesn't like smurfing, and I don't know if this is a thing in League of Legends where they ban people for smurfing or whatever. I'm not sure if that's a thing in League of Legends. Well, then they're trying to keep some sort of competitive integrity for their game, and I think that's great. But ultimately, it's up to the developers. If you're playing Overwatch and you see somebody with like, I don't know, some rank, and they got like 15, 20, 30k damage or whatever, and it's obvious that something that like they're really good, like, and they're smurfing or whatever, and you don't like it, well, it's tough shit, man. I mean, to my knowledge, can you even report people for smurfing in Overwatch? I don't know. I don't think I've ever reported anybody in the couple hours that I played Overwatch. I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe you can, maybe you can't.
holy cow, I want to see this game. It's crazy. And I clicked on it, and it was in plat, and I was like, oh, I got clickbaited. But then I watched it, and I still enjoyed the content. Like, it's very easy for...
Okay, so this is simply pub stomping, but on a ladder. All right, that's literally all it is. When a high tier player goes down in rank and then starts chewing through the ranks, it's literally just pubs to them. And I can't sit here and say that stuff didn't appeal to me at one point, because it did. All right, I have 100% watched those things in the past. And when I was younger and I didn't know better, but I mean, I'm older. Maybe my reaction time isn't as sharp as it was or whatever, but it's just things like that don't even appeal to me anymore. What does appeal to me are really high tier matches. You know, I want to see the Super Bowl of Overwatch. I want to see the Super Bowl of Apex, Quake, so on and so forth. Whatever game, all right? Those are the matches that I want to see, regardless of if I can, fathom what's going on, all right? I like watching this stuff, and that's it.
A average Overwatch player, a casual audience, to consume unranked TGMs. They love doing it, right? They get to see a streamer or a player come out and experience what they experience in their rank every single day, and they actually see someone progress from the skill floor to the skill ceiling of the game in the shortest form content possible, which is usually just like a couple hours, maybe 10 to, well, sometimes 12 hours. And that's like a whole story. It's almost like a movie, if you will. And some people might say, oh, that's BS. It's just them playing the game. But let's not act like there's not a story there. Like, there definitely is. It's not the most important thing, right? Especially, it's not really what you're thinking about when you're making the content. Like,
yeah, the story is this really good player went down here into unranked mode, got placed in plat, dropped a 72 bomb, and then they're just going to keep chugging. That's the story. You know, they just skip the bronze, silver, gold chunk. They just skip that part of the story. You know, they skip Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and they just go into the Twin Towers. All right. And then they go to Return of the King. All right. That first movie, that doesn't exist. So what kind of story is that? All right.
I kind of just sit down and think to make it, but you know, for your average player, there's definitely that element of the story of progressing through the ranks there, which is something that you don't really see too much specifically in Overwatch, you know, where there's just, as someone who's tried to make Overwatch content for 7 years, and, you know, I've done some other stuff. I played Warzone, I played Call of Duty, I played a bit of Apex. I didn't like Apex too much. That's just my personal preference.
Understandable, but with the amount of visual clutter in this game, how could you think Apex has any less or any comparable like visual clutter? It's about the same, but I get what you're saying, man. I mean, if you're an FPS bro and you have a main game that you like to play, but you're strung out on content or whatever, it's fine to like go off and play different games. But I can't sit here and try to defend smurfing. I mean, I used to like it. I used to be interested in it. I'm just not anymore. Maybe I'm not the target audience anymore. So, yeah.
Right, but, you know, you guys get it. For my time in Overwatch, like, you know, I've done the hacker hunts, I've done the, you know, coaching. There's only so much you can do when it comes to Overwatch content, especially without, like, the PvE being what it is. Unranked GM is just a solid way to grow your channel easily. In fact, it's actually the fastest way to grow your channel for most people. It just gets great. It's how I started, right? My first videos that popped off that got my stream recommended were, guess what? Unranked GMs. It was a great way to explode into the space. That's a little bit of the secret sauce I'm giving you guys. Not to mention,
oh dang,
it's incredibly easy to make. It's some of the easiest content you can make that's guaranteed great viewership. If you were at work and someone came to you and they said, hey, you're going to get fantastic results with this strategy, and it's going to take 30% of the work that you would have to do for your normal content in GM at Top 500. It's a no-brainer, right? It's just a no-brainer. It is easy to make, it tells a story, and it gets great viewership. That's why creators make it. It's plain and simple. It's easy, and people consume it like no other form of content, and it gets fantastic watch hours and drives great revenue if it's a very, very big video.
So, as another little aside, if I'm watching some unranked to the max rank in some game, and I am at all, like, interested in playing that game, let's say I click on one type of those videos and then my YouTube feed gets flooded with those types of videos for my favorite game. To me, if I'm a new player, and I see that stuff, like, oh, and maybe I've been playing for a little bit, I see this person progress from like a low rank to like one of the highest ranks in a couple hours, I want to be like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Okay. But then I start going, I start playing, I try to incorporate some of the tactics and so on and so forth. And then I quickly realize that, oh my God, I'm not that good. I suck at the game. Oh my goodness. But yet again, you know, I still go back to YouTube and I watch some more unranked to GM and so on and so forth. And I go back to playing the game. And then maybe I get a little progress. Maybe I get to silver. Maybe I get to gold. Maybe I end up in plat. But then I get stuck. Oh my gosh. The new season's about to reset. And I'm only in plat. It's taken me months. Dang. I couldn't get to the highest rank. What is wrong with me? Here my YouTube feed is getting blown up by all these people doing unranked to GM, and here I am. I just suck at the game. Dang. Maybe I'm not going to play anymore. So there it is. You know, maybe they do keep playing and they do get better season after season, or maybe they don't. Who's to say? I'm just throwing shit out there.
So for YouTubers, that's kind of our perspective on it. You can make easy content. And most importantly, too, when the new hero comes out, right? Heroes have always been Overwatch's content. You know, that's just something the developers have directly said. So you can actually, like, ironically, the most story that you're going to be able to get on these new characters is an unranked GM, because there's not really any other story development for these characters, which is kind of funny to think about. But, you know, I didn't really think about that. But that's why, you know, you see.
And here's another monkey wrench to add to the machine that is this conversation. The whole concept of smurfing, like really good player to, you know, start a new account, jump on a new character, play that character up to the max rank. This is going to be, you have to take into context whether or not you think a new season is a complete reset of the game, so therefore it's fine, or you don't think this season reset is essentially a new game and it's still Overwatch. So that's something else to take into consideration. If you don't think the season reset is a good enough reason to say it's a new game, well then, yes, smurfing is degenerate. But if you say, okay, the season reset is enough to be considered a new game, or whatever, then no, smurfing is fine. So that's just another monkey wrench.
See a lot of these come out when new characters come out. Why you've seen creators make them over the years. It's just frankly easy content that, you know, it's easy to make and people love to consume it. It's just that simple, right? And that's why you see it happen so much. So I would say if you hate Unranked GM so much and you're sick of smurfs in your games, don't watch the content, because that's how you get it to stop, is if you stop really giving it the gas that makes creators want to keep making it, right? And so that's really, I think, the biggest thing as to why you see so many of them that doesn't really get talked about, right? It's always from the player's perspective, and no one ever really thinks, I wonder why so many YouTubers do it. It's because it does really well, and it's easy to make. It really is that simple. Now, you know, you don't see me uploading only unranked GM content. You know, I haven't really been uploading much this summer. I've been pretty busy with Mindplex, and that took most of my focus, kind of laying out our plans for what we want to do this summer, which is why you didn't really see me stream much this summer. I'm really excited for X Defiant to come out, a couple other shooters that we can play aside from Overwatch. I've been trying to enjoy my time while I have a little bit of a break from Mindplex work because I'm blocked over there. But like previously, you know, you didn't really see, you saw me uploading a lot of different content, not just unranked GMs over the years. And I get people's frustration. I get why people would be mad, but going back to what Awkward Situation was about, where GS Raider was basically saying, oh my god, like it's dumb, like you're trying to teach these people the wrong thing, where it's like, I'm a support, not a healer, running around DPSing. No, these players aren't going to have Awkward's mechanics. They're just...
I have no idea what he's talking about, the video he's referencing. Apparently, there was a person that took like a support player. Like there's a tank, 2 DPS, 2 supports, and this player that was chose a support character wanted to play as a damage character. But because he was so good, he could kind of get away with it, I guess.
Not, right? However, weaving damage in as half of these supports is one of the most important things of the role, right? And I think that there is a way of thinking that does get taught to these players when they see somebody weaving in damage as a support character. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things on support, is to knowing when to weave in damage. Now, should you be averaging 5k per 10? No, probably not, unless you're playing Zen, right? Maybe is BAP, right? And are these plat players going to be able to put up those stat lines? No. But it shows them what the ceiling is. It shows them, it expands their mind and shows them a little bit of the skill ceiling that they wouldn't be able to find on their own because they're not natural geniuses.
But couldn't you just do that on your main account when a new character drops or a new season resets? Let's just say, I mean, I'm not familiar with the matchmaking system of Overwatch, but couldn't you just teach all that on your main account? Or is it like, would it be too difficult to, like, let's say your main is a tank, but you want to show people how to weave in like damage as a support. When you choose support, Does it just stick you into like your current, I don't know, rank of whatever your tank was ranked at? Is that how it works? Because if that's it, that sucks. And I get it. But if that's not the case, well then what's the excuse?
You know, Raider mentioned in his video that mechanics are something you were born with. I disagree. I think there's some people who can pick it up faster, right? But I don't think you're necessarily born with it. I think if you work at it, you can get it. It's not like this is a basketball court where you're either born as LeBron, like me, or you're not, right? You know, that's the reality. Like even LeBron had to like really work hard to, you know, get his skills out there. I think that gaming doesn't really have that hurdle that other sports and physical activities have. So to say that like they'll never be able to get there, I just don't think is true. I think really seeing somebody play the characters right and really seeing the flow of what the character does at its ceiling, even mechanically, can be something that's really, really rewarding. Like for example, you know, when I was first learning Genji and Hanzo, I watched a lot of Seagull when I was like, you know, first picking up the game. Granted, I was GM, but you know, the first couple months, like I watched Seagull play Genji, I watched Shatter play Genji, I watched a couple of these really good Genji players play Genji, and I learned how to adjust my mechanical style to get a better flow for the character.
But for those people that you were watching, were they doing unranked to GM, or were they just playing on their main accounts?
That helped me improve a ton as a player. And so the idea that these people aren't going to learn anything, I don't think is fair to say. Even if they're just pub stomping. So yeah, moving on. That's kind of, it's been a little bit of a ranty video, but I just wanted to explain and address the unranked GMs a little bit. I wanted to give you guys the YouTuber's perspective on it. What do you all think? Do you guys think unranked GMs are okay? Do you care? Did my perspective from a YouTuber explaining why creators do it change your opinion? What do you think of all these things? Are they all?
I don't care anymore because I don't watch it anymore. So yeah, you just do what you want. If the developers are fine with it, let it rock. If the developers aren't fine with it, well, hopefully you don't get banned.
Created equally? Are they all productive? Are bronze GMs okay? I think everybody's going to say no to that, but let me know down in the comments. I'm very curious what you all think. I love discussing these issues and talking game theory with you guys, so I appreciate you all. I'll see y'all next time. Much love. Peace out. Take care. See ya.
All right. I dig it. Is this is? It's just, you know, just gameplay? It's just gameplay. Yeah, I mean, I thought this is a good video. It contributes to the whole conversation of smurfing in general. I mean, I had no idea that there were layers to it, like doing bronze to GM and doing unranked to GM, like educational versus entertainment. I mean, I had no idea that you could break it down into that. I mean, or doing challenges in Apex, like no armor from, what is it, unranked to, what do you call it, Predator, or unranked to Master, no armor, unranked to Master, or Predator with Mozambique, unranked to Predator with, I don't know, melee only, grenade only, whatever challenge. I don't know. It's still a conversation that FPS bros can have, so I don't know. What do you guys think? Smurfing. All the different layers of it. But no, this is a good video. It was nice. I like it. I want to see more. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll catch you guys later, all right? Later.